interesting now having in the Independent Living Survey, how is independent living faring in our different countries, and the focus on personal assistance, as we can see. Because I think that at least in Sweden, it's difficult times now, but I'll talk more about that later. So yes, Ines, we can get started. Thank you.
So let's get started properly. Welcome everybody again. Jamie introduced everything already, why we are having the webinar today, and also happy Independent Living Day from my part as well. We will start, as Jamie said, the main point on the agenda today are the results of our Independent Living Survey, and which basically shows how much disabled people around Europe, not just the European Union, but around Europe, are able to exercise the right to live independently. We have already had one event a couple of years ago around this, but the idea of the Independent Living Survey is that it is a living document, and the survey, we will try to repeat the survey every once in a while to collect current information on access to the right to independent living. So without further ado, I will hand over to my colleagues, Florian Sanden, who is our policy coordinator, and to Nina Portolan, who is a member of the ENIL Youth Board, and both of whom have worked hard on this survey for the past, I would say, 3 years altogether. So over to you, Florian and Nina.
Thank you, Ines. Okay. My microphone is open, just last sec. Thank you, Ines. Happy Independent Living Day to all. Today, this week, is quite an important week for ENIL. Yesterday, we launched our proposal to a major commission initiative, policy initiative. They're going to guidance to member states on independent living. This is a big thing for us, and our proposal is underpinned by the which we are presenting today, our Independent Living Survey. For those who don't know me, I'm policy coordinator in ENIL, and I will be presenting some key results. Not all of it, of course. The report is too long for that. Together with my colleague Nina, member of the ENIL Youth Board, who was instrumental in preparing the survey while she was a European Solidarity Corps volunteer at ENIL. So. What is the Independent Living Survey? It was, first of all, it was conducted between 2020 and 2022. We did this to collect general information on independent living and detailed information about personal assistance. It was very detailed. Participants received 75 questions about the PA scheme in their country. It was disseminated online, received 143 responses who came from disabled people and PA users and from 43 countries. First of all, we can see that the number of PA schemes has increased. The countries who don't have PA schemes, you can see it in the list, it's only 8 within the Council of Europe area, and only 2 countries within the European Union. However, also Hungary, this is kind of latest news, is setting up a pilot project, but there are big questions still about the quality of this PA scheme.
Sorry to jump in, Florian, your slides are not moving. You are still on the first slide.
They're not moving. interesting. For me, they are moving. So
We can just see your first slide. Maybe try closing the presentation and showing it again.
okay, we'll
Sorry.
try this. Yeah. Can you see the first slide now?
We can see the first slide. Also, we do not see it in presentation mode. We see it in, if you click on that.
Okay. If I scroll over to the next slide like this, do you
Yeah.
see it?
We see it now. Yeah.
Okay, then I will just not go into presentation mode.
Would it be
Yeah.
possible?
Yeah.
to put
So
it
as
in
I would,
full screen?
sorry.
Would it be possible to put it in full screen, because currently it is not? Just
Yeah, with full screen you can't see. So it will have to be like this. Sorry.
okay.
Go ahead, Florian. We can see
No.
the slide now.
Full screen is not possible, apparently. Yeah, so as I was saying, between 2020 and 2022, the number of countries which have PA schemes has increased. Here you can see the list of countries who do not have PA at the moment. In the European Union, it's only 2 countries, but also Hungary is planning a pilot project now. Another question around this topic in the survey was, has the number of PA users increased? And the respondents told us that in most countries, the number of PA users has increased, which is good news. Interestingly, respondents, so we rely what our respondents told us, that in Denmark, Sweden, and England, the number of PA users has decreased. So the first two results, that personal assistance apparently is improving, is somewhat good news. However, not so good news concerns the quality of these personal assistance schemes. Respondents were asked to rate their country's personal assistance scheme between adequate, requires improvement, and inadequate. And as you can see, respondents were not very positive about their country's PA schemes. Only respondents from Slovenia said that they feel their country's PA scheme is adequate. So this can also however mean that disabled people who would need personal assistance are left out. But it concerns also the quality, so that it might not be fully in line with the UN CAPD. A crucial question concerned the issue whether disabled people living in residential care settings can apply for personal assistance. And here, strangely, most countries do not allow this, do not support this. Only 9 countries who offer this feature, which is really bad news, because personal assistance is, of course, intended to allow support moving out of residential care. So this is seems like a crucial problem which needs to be addressed. Are there restrictions what personal assistance? Oh no, I see. I'm already sorry. I was too enthusiastic. I'm already at the end of my bit. I hand over to my colleague Nina. Nina.
Don't worry, Florian. I guess that's my cue to continue. From me also, thank you everyone for joining us today. And now I will continue with our selected questions. The next question we looked at is if there are restrictions for what PA can be used for. And unfortunately, we see that in 26 out of the 35 countries that have PA schemes, there are restrictions. This might mean that assistants are not allowed to perform tasks related to healthcare, that assistance can only be provided inside the person's home, or that there might be predefined lists of what the assistant can perform for the user. We know that this is not in line with the UNCRPD, and it limits the choice and control of the disabled person. We only find 8 countries that do not have such restrictions in place, and these countries are Belgium, Cyprus, Poland, Montenegro, Greece, Bulgaria, Iceland, and Lithuania. Next, we looked at if PA is paid through direct payments, such as personal budgets. We know that these are important features of personal assistance that promote independent living. It gives the recipient the liberty to choose who is providing their assistance and makes it clear who the employer is. We see that 19 countries have direct payments, while 13 do not. So we can see that this is a good trend, with majority having personal assistance, but the number of those who do not is still quite high. Next, we see if the PA funding allows users to cover their needs in practice. Here we can see a very negative trend, with respondents from 30 countries responding that the funding provided is not enough to cover their needs in practice. This can make personal assistance unaffordable, put financial constraints, and reduce self-determination. And this way, it might force some people into residential care settings or to rely on their family members. On the other hand, we find 4 countries where funding allows users to cover their needs. And these countries are Slovenia, Georgia, Finland, and Denmark. We also see that there's a difference in which types of impairments are eligible for personal assistance. In many countries, certain types of impairments are prioritized and others are discriminated against when it comes to PA schemes. Persons with physical impairments are eligible in most countries, and we see that those are 32 countries, almost all included in the survey. 29 countries offer personal assistance to people with sensory impairments and 27 to those with cognitive impairments. 21 countries offers this service to people with psychosocial impairments, and also personal assistance is typically only directed at persons of working age who have access to personal assistance in 30 countries. Children are permitted access to this service in 18 countries, and persons over 65 years of age generally have a hard time accessing this service. Prioritizing certain impairments over others is discriminatory and not in line with the UNCRPD. Also, we looked at if the number of personal assistance hours per user is limited. In 5 countries, the number of assistance hours per user is unlimited and can depend solely on individual needs. These countries are Albania, Germany, Scotland, Iceland, and Sweden. In the Czech Republic, for example, personal assistance is currently only available 4 to 5 hours a day. The limit in Slovenia is 30 hours per week. Disabled people who support needs exceed this limit might again be forced to rely on family or move to an institution. Finally, based on our findings, we were able to put some policy recommendations in place, and we hope to direct these recommendations at governments. First, all countries should introduce personal assistance schemes. The countries who do not have PA schemes yet, such as Bosnia and Herzegovina, Armenia, San Marino, Luxembourg, Hungary, Turkey, and Ukraine, and Belarus especially. Secondly, governments need to ensure that these schemes are well funded. This way, all applicants can become recipients depending solely on their needs. It is important that provision is uniform across territories and that disabled people living in residential settings can also access personal assistance, because this might give them the opportunity to live in institutions and exercise their rights to live in the community. Countries need to lift all restrictions on what personal assistance can be used for. Resources that are allocated for PA schemes need to be dispensed directly to disabled persons in the form of direct payments, such as personal budgets. Also, personal assistance users can be supported through independent living centers and PA user cooperatives. Governments need to provide equal access to PA of all disabled people, regardless of their type of impairment, including physical, cognitive, sensory, psychosocial, and neurodivergent persons. In addition, personal assistance needs to be available to those under 18 years of age and those over 65. supported decision-making is crucial to be provided to those who need it in managing their personal assistance. Lastly, the number of personal assistance hours per recipient needs to depend solely on the individual needs of the user.
Thank you. Go ahead, Nina.
No, I was just going to mention the ENIL map of all of these. Sorry. So the map of all of countries with their personal assistance schemes, where you can access also reports by country, is on ENIL's website.
Thank you very much, Nina. And thank you, Florian, for presenting this summary report. Obviously, it is quite an extensive report. So this was a really summary version. And as Dina said, the link to the full report is in the chat. If anybody has questions, please feel free to post them in the Q&A box or the chat box, or keep your question for later if you would like to ask it in person. We will now move to some examples from the countries where we will hear from independent living activists, colleagues who will tell us a little bit more about the situation in their countries. So we will first hear from Uwe, I believe, Uwe Frevert from the, I will let him pronounce the name of the organization in German, but basically, let me say Center for Independent Living. So Uwe, I will give you the floor now. I am playing a little bit with these pins. The floor is yours, and each speaker has 10 minutes. Thank you for sticking to the time.
Yes, hello. I don't know how to do it, so you can see my presentation. I hope it works this way. So,
yes, it works.
It work?
Yeah,
yes, it works.
Perfect. You can just put it in presentation mode.
Right.
It works.
And maybe it should be bigger. Okay. You can see it? Yes. You do? It's fine?
We can see it, yes, but it's still not in presentation mode.
Okay. I have it in presentation mode.
It's just this button at the, at the bottom, this little.
But it will work, doesn't it?
It works. We can still see it. Yes.
We can do it.
If you prefer it, it's fine.
Yes.
Yeah. Go ahead.
Okay, let's
please.
do it. Okay. Our organization is the umbrella organization of the Centers for Independent Living by Disabled People Controlled. The government in Germany implemented that law, which is called the personal budget. It's a regulation which provides fundings for the disabled people themselves instead of funding through institutions. The government wanted to promote choices and options to increase the self-responsibility to the disabled people themselves. They wanted to improve the participation and enable equal rights to disabled people as a law of the United Nations, the Convention of the United Nations of the Rights of the Person with Disabilities said, especially in Article Section 26, in the paragraph 1. It mentions the peer support to enable persons with disability to attain and maintain the maximum of independence. In Germany, we use the term, instead of independence, self-determination. That's also what our organization's name says, self-determination instead of independence. It's, yeah, you know that the translation is sometimes a problem with the convention. In the past, in the earlier years in Germany, the fundings comes paying directly to the institutions only and not to the disabled themselves. The new laws with the personal budget should be an alternative way of providing service. So funding of the authority provides the service paying directly to the disabled person himself or herself. People who are normally called mentally disabled have nearly always received in Germany in-house services only in institutions. So the new service since 28 in Germany has basically two basic regulations. One was the budget support, and the second point was the budget administration. The budget support, for example, is to live outside of institutions in meaningful activities outside of sheltered workshops. Assisted housing also in sheltered housing through services for the disabled people's one's own choice, so they can decide. Personal organization of one's own assistance, independent of any care services, which is usually the topic. And the second part was the budget administration, which means invoices from ambulance services, which is according to the personal assistant, so they can assist the disabled people for the personal budget managing, and different services providing, for example, pizza service instead of meals on wheels. This is one of the alternative options, so the disabled people can decide themselves how to use the money. The personal budget services is to be supposed to be an alternative way. That is always the question in Germany. Funding authorities provide in Germany 3 billion euro on regular apartments, but the situation is that 8.3 billion euro will be spent in special housing. So it still didn't really change the situation. Most of the money will be provided as in the past before to the institutions and not to the disabled people themselves. Also, the funding authority provide for 3,000 disabled people a meaningful activity outside of these sheltered workshops. But in fact, it's today also that 276 people are treated by these sheltered workshops continuously. So the situation really didn't change in the great level, and we still have the problem that most of the money and most of the people are treated in these special institutions, and most of the money is spent in these special organizations. That's what I actually would like to share with you on a brief presentation. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you so much, Uwe, and thank you also for sticking to your time. It's what to say. It's quite say, what is the word? Not worse than disappointing to see still the balance between independent living and institutions, and that's still really most people are not able to live independently, even though some progress has been made. Thank you so much for sharing that. We will now hear from and again, anybody, if anybody has questions for Uwe or any comments, please post them in the chat or in the Q&A box, and we can also answer while other presenters are speaking. Now we will go to Malta. We were supposed to have our colleague Marteze Munet here with us. Unfortunately, she could not join, but she sent us a video that we can play. Florian, would you be able to play this, please? Let's see if it works.
Can you already see the start of the video?
No, at the moment we
No.
see a black. Oh, yes.
Okay.
Right, let's see if it works.
Good morning. I'm Martes Muliet from the Malta Federation of Organizations Persons with Disability. The Malta Federation of Organizations Persons with Disability has had personal assistance for persons with disability on top of its agenda for quite some years. Being a member of ENIL made it possible for MFOPD to inform itself and keep itself continuously updated about personal assistance. As from the very start, MFOPD understood and believed that the way forward here in Malta was the introduction of a professional personal assistance for persons with disability. This is the tool MFOPD wants for all persons with disability to benefit from. The lack of this support meant and means persons with disability are living a segregated life, are feeling pushed aside, are not able to choose and make informed decisions that affect their whole lives. MFOPD wanted and wants to see the UNCRPD, quoting from Agencia Support, the National Service Provider website, the agency focuses its resources to provide support and follow-up to persons with disability and their families who benefit from financial subsidy to acquire personal assistance through a carer of their own choice. These services aim to assist the person with disability to live an independent life in the community, whilst ensuring that they continue to receive services which are proactive towards their needs. This service is called the Independent Community Living Scheme, which is a financial package offered to persons with disability to live more independently or provide more assistance in more intense situations. The package can cover services provided by a living carer or an amount of hours that exceeds the maximum offered through direct payment, 13 hours per week, to pay for a carer. If the person requests an amount in excess of 30 hours per week, the request will fall under the Person Assistance Fund. This is what we find on the agency's website. This explanation, which according to Agencia Support is all about personal assistance, was not okay by MFOPD. It took MFOPD quite some time and energy to make the authorities concerned understand that to live independently, persons with disability need personal assistance and not a carer. The importance to comprehend the difference of these two roles could not be understood by many, and thus MFOPD continued sending out the right information to the authorities, to the general public, and to the persons with disability themselves. Hence, although it is being said that personal assistance for persons with disability was introduced in Malta in 2012, MFOPD is of the opinion that this is not the case. First and foremost, this service was not known to all persons with disability and was being benefited from only a very small number of persons. MFOPD's 50th anniversary National Conference on Personal Assistance for Persons with Disability, held in April 2022, was the turning point. Dr. Adolf Ratzka was the guest speaker for the event, and professionally gave out the right information about the subject. Among others, the National Service Provider and the Minister for Inclusion attended this event, which left the result MFOPD wished for, a great interest from the authorities concerned. MFOPD was asked to coordinate a meeting with ENIL representative to discuss how we could move forward with regards. The National Service Provider embarked on a reform on personal assistance and, better still, invited MFOPD to participate in the discussions and to introduce ENIL to them with the sole intention to have their expertise on board. I'm glad to say that today, MFOPD, Agencia Support, ENIL, CRPD, and the Directorate for Disability Issues frequently meet up to discuss the way forward for a professional person assistance reform. Changes need to take place, culturally and at implementation level. A law in place is work in progress, and this is to be followed with awareness-raising campaigns, assuring no one is left behind in the dark. MFOPD believes that having all these stakeholders on board, brainstorming and discussing together is fundamental for the success of this reform and thus beneficial to all persons with disability. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Florian, for playing Marte's video. Sorry, the quality was not very good at the beginning, but I think we were able to follow. The second part of the video seemed to be working better. As Marteze said, we are working fairly closely with the Maltese authorities, and they are not just reforming personal assistance, but also working on closing down institutions, including small group homes and trying to make sure that people can leave those as well. So we are very much looking forward, obviously, to see the results and hoping that it continues in the same direction. Now it's my pleasure to introduce to you Lukasz Orylski from Poland, who will tell us about the situation in Poland. Lukasz, you have 10 minutes. Go ahead.
Yes, thank you very much for having me here. I really regret that I don't have so many optimistic things to say, because the situation in Poland, as far as personal assistance is concerned, is really difficult. Since 2020, we have the ministerial program of personal assistance, but it is this program is not available in cross country. Especially, it is not available in practice in smaller towns and especially in rural areas. Honestly, I have to say that only the very little amount of potential PA users are taken into account. The last year, the percentage of people who get the service is 0.8%. Once again, not 8% even, but 0.8%. And 2 years and a half before, we were promised by our President of State, Mr. Andrzej Duda, that he will prepare a project of a PA law. But this PA law has been prepared without any consultation with PA users, without disability organizations. Honestly speaking, this law was this project was prepared by the academic scholars in social sciences, mostly the sociologists and career counselors. We have only one meeting in this whole 2.5 year process to make familiar with the proposals. After this long period, we have been invited into the remote meeting with the representatives of the Ministry of Family Matters and Social Issues, and we have seen some slides about this presidential proposals. I have to emphasize that we never had an occasion to read the whole text. We only know those slides, but even knowing these slides, it is enough to say that the project is completely incoherent with CRPD. Let me just tell you some points, some examples. For example, according to this proposal, each PA user will be given 100 hours of the service monthly. It doesn't matter if he or she needs more. 100 hours monthly is a maximum. Persons under 18 are excluded from the project. They will have to use the PA on project basis as nowadays. Let me just note that these temporary projects are as nowadays. That means that, for example, an individual could have access to the PA service from January, April, then break, and then from June to December, and from December to from the beginning of December to the end of December, it will be nothing. No access to PA users, no access to the PA service. Sorry. The other thing is that the assessments of the user's needs will be made by the certified career counselors, and this proposal is officially because the service of personal assistants have to be very much coherent with the process of as it is called, the professional activization of the disabled. And just another example, the assistants will be not allowed to perform any support described as medical. That means to perform an injection or change a bandage. And probably it is obvious that in such a bad proposal, the mechanism of a personal budget was not even mentioned. One optimistic thing is that there is a big coalition against this proposal, and we the activists who have our own experience of disability make a coalition with the parents of persons with mental impairment, but those group of parents who are aware of independent living values and the values of personal assistant coherent with CRPD. This is why we were able to organize the process. A protest in Warsaw a few weeks ago. And if you please make me allowed to share the screen, I will be able to show you some photos from the
You should be allowed to
protest.
share your screen, Łukasz.
Okay.
Do you see the green button at the bottom of your share screen where it says a little field with an
Okay.
arrow? Do you see it?
Okay. In a while, yes. Now you see some photos from the protest. Now you can see the group of drummers from the labor unions. That one of these unions is also supporting us during the protest. And yes. Równość means equality. Assistant now and time for change. Stop the systemic slavery, and on the table you have a decalogue of real personal assistant that we have been prepared to the government. Another, and yeah, this is just a few photos, and to finish, I would like to tell you that because no one is talking with us, although that we prepared very detailed proposals of amendments to the proposed law. No one, the ministry, no, the president office is talking with us, consulting with us, even nowadays. So on the 13th of May, so not very far from today, we will be organizing the symbolic funeral of personal assistants in Poland. In the center of Warsaw, in the front of Presidential Palace. So if you have an occasion to share this information in your social media, we will be very grateful, because the pan-European support for us is very important, especially nowadays. We don't have very much hope for having the PLO in this cadence, but obviously we have to do something. We have to protest. We have to talk about it all the time, because we cannot. Because if we remain silent, no one would do this. No one would force the government to introduce the law. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Łukasz. Of course, you have our full support, and sure we stand in solidarity with you. Great you're protesting. I mean, it's really awful to hear about this nonsensical law and the fact that nobody is listening to you. But it's great you were able to form such a big coalition of organizations that are trying to get this to change. So please do share also information with us by email, and we will post it, and we can share it with our members and others. So thank you. This closes this little part with information from the 3 countries. We will continue with some good practice examples from 3 countries. But before that, we will give our captioners especially and the sign language interpreters a little break of 10 minutes. And of course, all of you as well. So please have a little break and join us back at 11:30. Thank you. Break. You said. Okay. Hi, everyone. Welcome back. So let's continue with the second part of this webinar today. Now, after hearing mostly bad things, we hope to hear also some good things. But I leave it to, let's see what we hear. We're very happy to have, with us, first of all, our friends from Uloba, and really great to hear there's 40 of you there. I don't know where you all fit, but it's great to have you here in such big numbers. And we will hear from Martin Eliasson from Uloba first. So Martin, over to you.
Thank you so much. We are very happy to be here today on this Independent Living Day. My name is Martine Eliasson. I'm working as a political advisor in Uloba Independent Living Norway. We are a non-profit organization of and for disabled people. Our goal is a diverse and inclusive society where disabled people are equal citizens. And we are a part of the independent living movement. And we are happy to be one of the main sponsors to ENIL, which we are very proud of. And we are a democratic organization. Only disabled people can have a full membership with voting rights. And now, today, we are 2,000 members in Uloba, which are very proud of that we are growing so big. And disabled people are favored as employees and in leading position. And the organization allows itself to be represented by disabled people in meetings and in media and the general public. And we work on demedicalization, deprofessionalization, and deinstitutionalization. And we work through empowerment through peer-to-peer support. We see disabled people as experts on themselves. And everything we do is therefore based on disabled people's own experience from having personal assistance. And we are fighting our own fight for equality and human rights. And therefore, we require that at least 50% of all administrative staff must be disabled. And we see all employees who are not disabled themselves as allies in our fight for equality and human rights. And we work with empowerment to empowerment disabled people, which means that the disabled people themselves must take power and control in their own life like other citizens of the society. And our peer-to-peer support means that disabled people themselves assist and support each other. The fact is that all personal assistance advisors in Uloba have assistance needs, and we see that it's a strength to peer-to-peer support. So when you are applying to have personal assistance, you always get an advisor that has personal assistance themselves. And we see that it's a very important principle to see that disabled people themselves are the expert. And now I'm going to talk about Uloba's model of personal assistance, which we call citizens-led personal assistance. And we see the personal assistance scheme as a liberation tool that will promote full equality and participation for disabled people. And our motto shall provide the opportunity to live a free, active, and equal life in all areas of the society, including education, working life, family life, social life, and to be part of cultural activities. Our motto is comprehensive, flexible, and personal design tool led by the person who needs assistance or in collaboration with someone close relative that they chooses. And our motto gives the opportunity to live a life without unnecessary control. The person with assistance need will recruit and give training to its own assistance. And we required management training and guidance based on peer-to-peer support principle. Because we see that a challenge in Norway is there are many companies that facilitate personal assistance, which are not based on the principle of responsibility and self-determination. So our personal assistance scheme shall also always follow the principle that we must decide for ourselves who we want as assistance and who will assist with what. We will decide ourselves what the assistance will assist with, as you also can decide in your own life. We decide for ourselves where we want to be assist, if it is at home or when we are traveling, because our assistant follow us where we are, regardless of the national borders. And we decide for ourselves when we want assistance based on our needs. And this is how we give a person with disabilities control and power back in their life, so they can be a natural part of the society. And in Norway today, there are 3,969 people with personal assistance. So it's almost 4,000 people with personal assistance in Norway. And from the period from 2015 to 2021, there were an increased number with personal assistance that was 988. Nevertheless, the government expects the increase of number to be from 3,444 to 6,883. So they expect the increasing of personal assistance to be double, but we see that it was only less than 1,000 people that got personal assistance from 2015 to 2021. So we know that in Norway there are a lot of people which have needs of assistance that doesn't get access to personal assistance, which means that there is a lot of people that is forced to live in institution in Norway and doesn't have self-determination and control in their own life. Because the personal assistance scheme in Norway is anchored in the Health and Care Services Act, and it's managed by the municipal level. And the health law also deprives the individual right to self-determination and to be able to take responsibility and have the power in their own life. We do a yearly service among our members, have the personal assistance means to their life, and if they will achieve their human rights. And our survey documents that there are large differences in how the municipalities manage the personal assistance. There are many people who need personal assistance that do not have enough hours of assistance to cover very basic needs and don't have the opportunity to be active in the society. And the consequence is that the disabled people become dependent on unpaid assistance from friends and family. We become less independent, and this goes beyond our physical and mental health. Nevertheless, we see that having personal assistance is very important so that we can better take care of our own health and have the opportunity to take an education and be part of the working life. Therefore, we work politically to move the personal assistance scheme into the Equality Act and link it up to the UN CRPD. And we want the personal assistance scheme to be transferred to the state level, so that we can ensure that everyone, including children and youth, will receive personal assistance to be active in all areas of life. We must have access to assistance when we are at home, in our spare time, and when children are in kindergarten, when children are in school, and when we are a part of the working life. We must have the same right to personal assistance regardless of where we live in Norway. Only then we can take a full active part of the society, and therefore we work every day so that the disabled people can achieve their human rights and have the freedom to live independently in the Norwegian society. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Martine, for this presentation. We heard some good things from Norway, but it was also good to hear your points about the importance of personal assistance being within the equality law, not within health legislation, about the importance of having it on state level to make sure that everybody has access, and other room for improvement that is even in a country that exists even in a country like Norway, which is obviously far ahead from other countries. So thank you, Martine. We will not go far now. We are going to Sweden, and we are going to hear from Jamie, who opened the webinar, but now we will hear from her in her capacity as the director of the Independent Living Institute, but also I believe Jamie is she a board member in STIL?
No, just a member these days.
Just a member of STIL. So we will hear a little bit about the situation in Sweden. Go ahead, Jamie.
Yes, thank you very much. And thank you, Martine, and everybody. It's been interesting to hear different things and what we need to be aware of. I'm going to start by saying my time's short. So if you want to have questions about the Swedish model, send me an email, jamie.bowling@independentliving.org. We usually receive different study visits from different organizations, like yourself, Elena, when you guys came to look at the Swedish model for Slovenia. We just recently had a group from Slovenia who were here looking at the examples we have when it comes to working with people with cognitive disabilities. And we will have that was in May, and we have another visit from Lithuania also in May later this month. So Sweden is seen as a good example. And there are good things to say, of course, as Ina says, but I think in no country do we have the perfect solution, because there's always somehow, how do you say, looking at the disability perspective, people don't really see us as equals. But Sweden has had a good spirit already from the 70s, and the legislation for personal assistance came in the 90s. But politicians come and go, so we always have to lobby and re-lobby, because new politicians are saying, isn't it cheaper to have people in institutions? So this survey that ENIL has done is important so that we can look at the implementation of the CRPD in our countries, the access to self-determination, full participation. Before, when study visits would come to Sweden, they would say, oh, you have so many disabled people in Sweden. And I would say, no, we have not more than what you have, but we had access to good services, which means people were out on the streets. But in the last year, since 2012, there's been a decrease in the amount of people who have personal assistance, though I was trying to calculate with Norway and the population size and Sweden and the population size, because we've gone from 20,000 people having personal assistance down to about 15,000. This will go up again. I'll tell you one good example that's happened. But personal assistance in Sweden is a right. This is a good example. You also can appeal the right if you find that you're not satisfied with the what do you call it, with your I can't find the word, with your what the amount that they're going to give, the decision that you received. It's a direct payment where there's choice. You have the choice of deciding who the provider, what you want the provider to be. Do you want the provider to be the municipality, or do you want to have your own company? Do you want to be a part of a cooperative? I'm a part of STIL, the cooperative for here in Stockholm for independent living, or do you want to have a company? We find, just like Martina said, there's many companies out there, and unfortunately not all of them are administrating personal assistance with independent living perspective, and maybe taking care of people rather than having people be independent when it comes to the administration of their personal assistance. People can have personal assistance 24 hours around the clock, 7 days a week. Some people even have more if they have, how do you say that, when they need interpretation for what they say. Wages are competitive. The amount you receive per hour in Sweden for assistance is over about 310 Swedish crowns, say around 30 euros. But not all this money goes to the person. The average wage, I would say, is around 17 euros per hour. But then the rest of this money goes to the administration, the insurances, paying the extra, the vacation, paying extra costs if you do go someplace with your personal assistance. I go to the movie, the cinema, and I have to pay my ticket, and then this cost would pay the personal assistance. Or even on a trip if you've had assistance for a long time and can save for that. There's a new development, which is it's actually something old, apparently an EU directive saying that you're not allowed to work more than 13 hours in a day, and then you have to have rest for 24 hours or something like that. But we're in Sweden, today we are able to, somebody's able to work, say 12 hours during the day and even do the pass at night when they're on call, but that won't be possible anymore. And this is it will challenge us, as it'll be more difficult to organize the assistance and also to find personal assistance, which is a problem today, that people can only work 13 hours. My assistants today, they work from 7 in the morning when they get up, and we'll go to bed around 23 in the evening, and then they're all on call in the evening, and they'll work the next day, and then somebody else comes. So I won't be able, I'll have to reorganize my life completely. We'll see though, the firemen are complaining about this. So we're hoping if the firemen complain, maybe that'll help us. There's 16,000 personal assistants who have signed a petition against this, but we'll see. Sometimes there's exceptions in the EU directives, and sometimes there's not. Today, I'm not sure about my time, Ines, because
You're still okay, Jamie, go ahead.
About 5 minutes. But today,
Yeah.
Independent Living Institute, we're celebrating independent living by putting out the second version of this book, Freedom to Choose with Whom, Where, and How You Want to Live. Sweden closed the largest institutions in 2000, but they did this with starting smaller institutions and group homes. And many of these, we think, unfortunately, are still institutions where people haven't really chose to live there and may not chose with whom they're there. And then with the decrease in the access to personal assistance, there's the risk and the threat of reinstitutionalization. So we have to have this on the agenda at all times. The other thing, I mean, it's a good example that people have the right to assistance in Sweden, but there's three core, you have to be eligible within three categories, either to have autism or something like the diagnosis around autism, or a brain damage as an adult, or as somebody with a physical or mental disability where your day is difficult without personal assistance. But if you're blind and deaf, you don't access personal assistance. So then the people who are blind and deaf will say, why should you have a more free life than I have? Because with personal assistance, you can choose, as Martin said, in Sweden as well, who's going to work and when, etc. Where if you don't have it, then you're dependent on what the city organizes for you. There is a new change where in Sweden, we've had a two track where you could get assistance either at the state level or at the municipality level, where this right now is there should be a new legislation that would come into effect in 26, which would say that it's only the state. We're wondering, myself, I used to be at the state and I fell down to the municipality. And if I can go back to the state, will it be equal to what that's going to be? We'll have to see how that's happening. But we're happy for this, because if it's at the state level, then you're free to travel within your country or to move within your country. People can travel maybe, but you can't move because you don't know what how the next city is going to consider your needs. So people stay put if you have it at the state level, then you're free to move someplace else. There's been a fight, for example, what is a right? Do you have, is being able to breathe a right? Because people who were being able to breathe, we come to the medicalization of personal assistance, as Lucas talked about. For a while, they were saying that if the person needed personal assistance and assistance with breathing, then this wasn't personal assistance, this was medical. But now they've changed that, so the new legislation will be changed again. So these people will be coming back into the system. So that number 15,000 should go up. So when we look at challenges, it's as Lucas was talking, as we see this medical, our lives need to be seen as a whole and not broken up into medical needs, etc., and other needs. What is a right when it comes to the personal assistance? Let's see, more parents are being refused personal assistance for their children, which means these children end up in group homes. So we feel that there is an increase in institutionalization rather than a respect for the CRPD, where we should be going forward and not backwards, where we need the solidarity to work together. And I'll stop there, a little bit long. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Jamie. That was really interesting as well. And yeah, it seems like a bit of a mixed picture. Some things are getting better, but it's disappointing to hear about children not being able to access personal assistance. And of course, we know if children grow up in segregated services, they are also likely to stay in segregated services as adults. So for children, yeah, it's really important that they get to grow up with their families. But yeah, it was good to hear that the number of personal assistance users may go up. And we moved from Scandinavia to Slovenia, and we are going to hear from Elena Pečarić, our famous speaker. We like to have YHD with us with us in webinars. Slovenia is one of the newer countries with personal assistance legislation. So Elena will tell us, I suppose, a little bit about that and maybe some other things. So go ahead, Elena.
Yeah, I will describe Sim, sim.
Sim.
É. Hello to everyone.
Sorry, Elena, you're muted. Wait, I will unmute. Oh, now it's good.
Okay. Hello also from my colleague, Claudia Bonaparte, which say hello to everybody that she know, and you know her very well also. Yeah, in Slovenia we have a good, I can say, a good law of the personal assistance, which started in 2019, but we have quite a lot of problems because our law is based on the Swedish model and on the Convention of the Right of Person with Disability, of course, but the translation of the Convention to Slovenian, from the English to Slovenian, lose the fundamental emphasis, and this come all the problems that we have, ignorance of what is personal assistance that needs active and responsible user, that is fundamental condition for independent living and personal assistance. There was no change of paradigm in the wider understanding of society about what is personal assistance and what brings to the independent life of an individual. The old logic of care and protection is simply implemented under a new name. And this is quite a problem. In the beginning, where we, of course, we were a leading association that proposed this law, we didn't include any medical documentation in the assessment procedure. We based totally on the social model of disability. That the potential applicant for the personal assistance sometimes learn the right answer for in this assessment, borrow with a wheelchair or play the character of the poor disabled person, and got more personal assistance than they actually needed. Since there are no complementary services, we don't have even long-term care act, which we expected from 20 years. Now our government say that we will get it at the 2024, we think, we hope. All these needs came out that are put in the independent living law. This lack of range services in the community that would meet the different needs of potential candidates, perhaps a smaller number of hours, several times a day, assistance with exporting or domestic help. Can we put in a community local level? We have in some way opposite situation, like in Sweden. Even more bizarre is the fact that a large number of providers, in Slovenia we have 107 providers now, are in a triple role and conflict of interest, since they are legally representative of the user, be legally representative of the providers, at the same time often also the personal assistant to their own child. They call it, mother often call it like this, or their or child, even if we speak of persons that they have 30, 40 or more years. Many users visit shelter work centers, even though we are not very, we are very critical of this form of this institution. Many people there experience the only interaction with the outside world, from families to employ one or more, or even two family members. These individuals were charged from the shelter's work, and they allowed for a greater number of assistants and employees of the family members. The user must receive a quiet service. This is primarily about users who have various intellectual disability and are prior to their administrative ability. As a rule of their guardian is one of the parents, which we see in this big problem. Unfortunately, we live in a culture that is not used to the promotion and respect of equal opportunities, self-determination, and independent life, but on the contrary, being a pure disabled person is often more convenient because nothing is expected from you. You have no responsibility. You have no duty. You just have a right, and you can only feel sorry for yourself. But I without agree. For these reasons, we are faced by the fact that many family members are represent as much as half employee in personal assistance, which is contrary to the purpose of the law, as these don't promote the independence of users. Their status, we think that status must be regulated in a complementary way in a family assistance, and the hours of family helpers must be deduced from the approved hours of personal assistance. The right of personal assistance is misunderstood and perceived as an additional new social right, which should belong to the disabled person simply because I'm disabled. As a kind of social transfer compensation, or other ones that supplement the individual deficit. This understanding is tied to old established models from the socialist past, which are based on medical perception. In short, if I without brief, I will just say that some of numbers. We have now 4,000 users, 8,000 of personal assistants. In this year, the cost of personal assistant amount to 200 millions of euro per year. The government has deduced that this is too much. So the current law, we have to be changed or other service will also be needed to adequately compensate what is currently covered by personal assistance. So we have an important work to do to stimulate other services which can supply all this. If it is any question.
Thank you very much, Elena. Again, really interesting because you have a new law. It's really good to see how it is sort of working in practice and you know the lessons. And I think the overarching message from all the presentations is, well, it is really not enough to have, you know, just to say to you, we have personal assistance. We need to look into how it works, whether it really makes a difference to people's lives in terms of independent living. Exactly. And also, I think one key point from your two other key points is about the importance of changing attitudes and awareness raising, going hand in hand with the introduction of personal assistance legislation, but also making sure that personal assistance is not the only community-based service, because then it takes up functions which should not be under personal assistance and should be really provided by other services.
It's mixed because the personal assistance in Slovenia is not understood like a potential for the user. It's not. We don't have in the law. We don't have a duty, a responsibility of the users.
Yeah,
which is for me very important topic. That you give some right, but you also need to be active, to participate, not just to be that you have only money and you don't have nothing. I think we will in these days we will even translate our manual for personal assistance, which will be spread in all countries, and I hope that we will be able to set some strong political action together to force the European Council to took some guidelines what is independent living, and that independent living should be in all European countries. But the same, even if you get the different social status, but what is the independent living? Know that other service which are based on help and patriarchalism and family care should be named by the name of independent living. But here
Yeah,
is a
absolutely.
problem. I saw.
Yeah, absolutely, Elena. And actually, your last point is a really good introduction to our next speaker, which is Olga Martinez de Briones from the Disability Unit at the European Commission. I know, Olga, you're here with us. I imagine you've been listening carefully. So we know, and this was what the event yesterday was about, the European Commission is in fact in the process of preparing the guidance on independent living. So I'll bring you in now, Olga. I mean, I'll leave it up to you to what you would like to share, maybe some reflections of what you've heard and what you are working on at the moment. And thank you also very much for joining us. Meanwhile, if anybody has any questions or comments for speakers, please put them in the chat, as we might be tight on time for discussion. So Olga, over to you. The floor is yours.
Thank you, Ines. Thank you for the introduction, and thank you for having me today. As you know, we are very much looking to hear from stakeholders on to feed the reflection, and then also the important recommendations and examples that we want to use for the guidance. So these occasions are very important, and especially the day that it is today also is very meaningful, because it helps us give visibility to the importance of the right of independent living. So having a European Day on independent living is also, I would say, part of the communication and the awareness races that we need to make progress in this field. Now, I just wanted to maybe have a little bit of reactions before I move on to explain a little bit what we are doing and what we have set to implement from the European Commission. I think from all participants, we've heard it is clear that developing the conditions for independent living and the deinstitutionalization process requires systemic changes in the approach that member states and public services give services, provide the services to persons with disabilities and the support. We've heard that I would say a key message is the person-centeredness of the services that are required, but also how transition to community living and the accessibility of mainstream services are very important, and not only personal assistance, but the development indeed of a whole range of support services. It was very interesting to hear from Germany, from Sweden, for example, what a long process it has been, how some milestones, let's say, have been reached in terms of, especially of legislation, but how there are still challenges, how there is still misunderstanding on what it entails, misunderstanding on what the personal assistance involves as in terms of tasks. We have heard as well very important messages on partnership, co-production, co-design, which is really a key principle for the European Commission, the key partnership, and I will say more also how we ourselves try to always listen and co-produce initiatives with the stakeholders and implement this very important partnership principle, peer support, very, very important, and lacking as well, I would say, in what we hear in many of the conditions for independent living that are existing in member states. And yeah, very strong messages. I think very interesting examples, having these examples from the member state. And I would like to say a little bit a word of how we are advancing, how the Commission is working to advance the rights of persons with disability and to really achieve the Union of Equality. So we have the strategy on the rights of persons with disability adopted in 2021 and with a time frame of 2030. And this strategy covers many areas that are key, not only for the full achievement of equal rights for persons with disability, but in particular to support independent living, what we are talking today. There are really many areas of daily life: accessibility, social protection, education, employment, free movement, that are really important. And we are launching, and we are in the implementation phase. So there are already some flagship and actions that have been launched. We have now the disability platform, which is our forum to exchange with member states and with civil society. The employment package was launched last year with many actions to support the path to employment and to inclusive employment. We have Accessible EU, which is a key element on, of course, securing also the inclusion in the community. Mainstream services have to be accessible for built environment, but also access to information and also digital applications. And now we also have then a very strong focus that the strategy, this strategy has put on the right of independent living, and this is notably reflected with two flagships that the strategy aims to achieve in this field. So this guidance that we are preparing this year and that are due for the end of the year, and for which I'm intensely listening to you. And then next year, a framework for services of excellence. So a quality framework for services of excellence for persons with disability, with which we hope to dive more in detail on what quality means. We have spoken, we have heard from you some elements of what quality, for example, in PIA, in personal assistance schemes means, but also peer network and other services that are key and fundamental to support the self-determination and independence and autonomous living for everybody. So with the guidance, just to say a few words of reflection for the guidance, we don't aim to reinvent the wheel, of course. We are it will build on the concepts and recommendations from the United Nations, not only the Convention and General Comment 5, but of course the guidelines from last year and all the underpinning notions that it contains. And we wanted to be very concrete and pragmatic with the aim to support member states in advancing and strengthening the transition process that they are currently in. For this, we have established, so as I mentioned, the dialogue and the exchange is very important. Under the disability platform, we have created a subgroup, which is the fourth subgroup that has been established to support. So each subgroup supports one of the flagship initiatives. We have one for employment, we have one for accessibility, for the European Disability Card, and now we have one for the independent living guidance. And I have to say, it has brought high interest. We have 18 member states and 9 umbrella European level organizations representing civil society. And we had a first meeting last week with a first dialogue to hear a little bit on what are key areas, what should cover, and also to start exploring promising practice coming from member states. And of course, I have to say that and thank ENIL for the proposal, for the guidance that was just published yesterday, and also the expert contribution that the members, ENIL's members, and you have made to understanding better what personal assistance schemes should look like, what works, what doesn't work. Very interesting to learn, to hear also lessons learned, which are so in how to define and design these schemes. Voilà, what we know that is that as we have heard, member states, and some have been for a long time in the process, some are starting in the past, over the last decade have started. The European Commission not only supports this with policy recommendations, but also with funding. So member states are using different funding sources for their transition, including EU funds. But we know that the member states are at very different stages of the process, and we know that the still demand, and this has been confirmed by the interventions today, still demand is much higher to what is in offer in terms of service, and the conditions are not always there. Often they are bad. Well, there are still challenges that that we will try to address, and we will try to not only in terms of recommendation, but we will try to illustrate the how to make the guidance as concrete as we can to really guide the process for member states and accelerate the process. And with this, just a last word to say thank you, and to still call for your support to continue giving and raising visibility, because for sure the systemic change that is requires also a change of mindset. We've heard from the intervenants about misconceptions still and misunderstandings, and this comes also from mindsets that need to really shift the perspective, indeed, from the care to the self-determination, controlled choice, and this is what we are all working for. Thank you very much for having me today again, and thank you very much for all your interventions.
And thank you to you as well, Olga, for this little update on what the Commission is doing and your reflections. And for sure, we will, as you know, we will all follow very closely and are here to support you in developing this guidance. And we will also be looking to provide you with some good examples from the member states that we would like to see replicated, because there are definitely some good practices around as well. So thank you for that. And I will now hand over to our last speaker for today, which is the member of the European Parliament, Anne-Sophie Pelletier. She's the MEP for the Left, and she has authored, she has been behind a recent European Parliament resolution on equal rights for persons with disabilities. So let me just find her. So I can see you, Anne-Sophie, but your camera is not on. Oh, yes, you are. Your camera is on now. And after Ms. Pelletier, I will leave you in the good hands of my colleague Florian, who will moderate the end of the webinar. So Anne-Sophie, please go ahead.
Yes, firstly, thank you very much for this invitation, because I think that if you are alone, you go more fast, but if you are together, you go longer. And I think to have good politics for people with disability, we have to be together. I can do something alone. The Commission can do something alone. And thank you so much for your invitation. We are speaking about independent living, disinstitutionalization, and personal assistance. Like I said yesterday evening, I was care workers for people with disability and old people. So I have seen in my job what difficulties, what obstacles people with disability had, and how it was difficult to help them to be independent, because very difficult to do something administrative, some administration and accessibility, job, school. It's very, very difficult, because even if some member states have made many things for people with disability, we can't say that all is made, because if all was made, we are not here to speak about this subject. My report was about equal rights for people with disability. And my priority was, and are still, this institutionalization and autonomy for all people with persons with disability. Stopping forced sterilization of women with disability. A disability card for every country. Yesterday I say you can cross the border. You have the same disability in France, in Germany, in Belgium, and you can cross the border. It is not a miracle. You have the same problem, but not the same rights. That's why a disability card is, I think, very, very, very important to begin to have the same rights. Sorry for my English, it is not very good. What more, my priority? Access to justice and equality before the law. We have seen in France so many examples of person with disability doesn't access to the justice. We have seen that in France. What more? Participation to public and political life. Why is that a priority? Because I think that if we want to have good disability politics, we have to have persons with disability who ask themselves what they need, what they want. Not only people like me, but persons with disability. The revision and adoption of a directive against any form of discrimination. 52% of persons with disability have violence. It's just incredible. Not really incredible, but just unacceptable. And last but not the least, the mainstream of the sign language, Braille, and easy to learn and to understand. It was my priority. And I have listened what you have made, and thank you very much for your wonderful job, because you help me to understand and to push for better politics for persons with disability. But I think if we want to have an independent life, I think the more important too is to establish a system for monitoring to use of funds that is accessible, transparent, and effective. Now we don't know. We don't know where are the funds about the European Union. We know that there is some funds coming in member states, but how it is employed or how it is target, we don't know. We don't know. And if we want to have this institutionalization, we have to stop to give some money to institution.
Yes.
We have to stop to give money, European money, in this institution. If you want to stop it, no more public money. And we built something with persons with disability to build a personal life, a personal project life. But you can do that if always funds are sending in this institution. It will continue and continue and continue. So I think it's very important to do that. And like I said before, I was care worker as personal assistant for persons with disability. I think we have to be more and more people like I was, because to accompany, to have an accompaniment, it's important to have people who have a formation. You can't send women to accompany persons with disability if they don't have formation. It's not possible. And the first one formation people who make personal assistance have to have, it is to listen. Just to listen. Listen what person with disability wants. Every person can, in my mind, can live what and how and where he wants. We speak just about persons with disability who can choose where they want to live and how they want to live. Valid people have not this problem. They can do what they want. And we are in 2023. And we are always fighting for persons with disability, just to have a personal life, personal project. Incredible, incredible. And I think that if we begin to see persons with disability like citizen, European Union citizen, so they have the same right like everyone, the same rights, they can choose. They can choose what they want. And I think that if European Union can do something, we have to support to improve personal assistance with people formed. What can do the European Parliament? How can we help? We have to push for portability of personal assistance and to have access to necessary help when moving around the European Union. First, I have spoken about funds. We have to know where they have been targeted in each member states, and to stop European funds in the institution. It's, I'm a member of European Parliament. And even if I don't agree every time with European Commission, I have to say that they try to do something. They try to do something like some member states for independent life. But we have a problem with member states themselves, because we are not in European Union is not a full competence. Member state can choose what they want to do for a person with disability. They decide. So I think that what we can do, we can make a pressure about member states, because they receive European funds, so they have to be transparent. They have to do what they have to do for all people. And I think we have to do that, to make pressure to each member states to know how funds have been tagged. And we have to live independently. Is not, I don't know to explain that in English, but now it's a right to live independently. No, if citizens can live independently. Valid citizens can live independently, while persons with disability can't. We have to be very, very strict to begin our politics by this step. All citizens, same rights, no institution, personal assistance who answer at personal needs, to have funds to help personal assistance, because persons with disability can choose who personal assistant he wants. Now,
Yes,
you know, when
let
I
me share.
was, yes, sorry.
Sorry.
Yes, please
No,
repeat.
no. I said to my assistant to switch me off. Sorry for disturbing you.
Don't worry, sorry. I think that we were always speaking about inclusive society. But if you include, at a time you have exclude, we are just speaking about citizen, not person with disability, citizen. And all a society is with all citizens. I think that the Commission should improve its monitoring on the use of EU funds, including considering the suspension, withdrawal and recovery of payments if the obligation to respect fundamental rights is breached. We have CRPD. We have each member state have to respect its fundamental rights. And I think that segregated sitting and small groups home should not be financed with European Union funds. So to conclude, we have a big responsibility today. That of the voice of Europe, the voice of a society that wants to be free and equal for everyone and everywhere. We must move from words to action. True equality can only be achieved through concrete and measurable results. The United Nations Convention is the key instrument to fight discrimination, exclusion, and coercion. We have ratified it. Let's implement it now. Let's make equality before the law a reality for all persons with disability in European Union. We have to move words to action, and you can have my support. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, MEP Pelletier. We will need the support of convinced MEPs like you very much. So we have now the remaining time, some opportunity for questions to the speakers from the audience, from the attendees. If you would like to ask a question or also comment, make a remark, please raise your hand. There should be an icon on the bottom of the screen, and then I will open your microphone, give you permission to take the floor. Is there someone who would like to ask a question? It's also, of course.
Can I?
Yes, of course.
Can I propose something?
Yes.
Again, I will repeat myself because I really talking today or hearing today or your experience. We are very different, and we have a different, how to say, not status, but we are in different positions. I think in Slovenia now we are in very happy because we achieved at least where I will been fighting for more than 20 years, but unfortunately this is not enough, and I really have a proposal to get an alliance to make push the NPM and also committee to give us more, to set up what is independent living, not in that in every state it will be something different. I think it must be some standards of what can be named by the name independent life, and what quality of service is that, because this is the problem. Now independent living is quite a fashion word, and a lot of services put this name to be on, to be in, and I think this is not enough, because if we heard Lucas in Poland, what is this? We heard in Germany. Germany is quite big state, and even there they don't have this possibility. It's not for everyone, and I think really we should do in this way, to build an alliance and to push our activity, political activities in this way. Because if you have assistant, then you become free automatically. You can work, you can be active, you can be everywhere if you have this. For example, for me it's like this. I need a very medical assistant often, because I'm also on graphic machine, and here in Slovenia this is allowed, that I can choose a person who I want. It's not need to be medical, any medical professional, something like that, because I teach her or him to do what I want or what I need, and this is very easy. This is very easy, but I know this is not possible in all the countries, and yeah, this will be
I
my
agree
wish.
with everything you.
Okay.
I agree with everything you say. You raised some important quality criteria of personal assistance. Are there more comments or questions? You can also post your question. There is on the bottom left a small icon with A, where you can write your questions. It's also possible, of course, for the panelists to ask questions to each other or make remarks. Uwe, please go ahead.
Yeah, thank you, Florian. Well, we never need to misunderstood that the dealing with the disability policy in each country, especially in Germany, it's a business. It's a money management, and these huge organizations which are involved in the disability business, they make the money and they make the decisions. And people who have the choices now in Germany, to choose the personal budget, the law says, okay, so you have the right to choose and you have to get the possibility to get the money. But in fact, we lose, and the fundings authorities decide that the organizations, the huge organization, the traditional organizations, the sheltered workshops or the homes, as they call it, they get the money basically. And if the disabled individual choose the personal budget, they start right away in cutting the funds, in giving the disabled people less money, on less wages for the personal assistants, etc., etc. So the law is very important, and even it's very important that we get support from the UN, from the United Nations, and from the European community, and tell the government in Germany this is not right what they do, because the personal budget is in fact an instrument of the United Nations, of the Convention of for the disabled peoples, and we don't get this right. The business decides, and not we self can decide, because the authorities, the funding authorities, they put the money away from us. And this is a very important tool where we have to think about and to talk about, and where we actually need all over in Europe the support, that we really have the choice to decide who gets the money.
It's the same in Slovenia. The big money around, yes, business.
But there is enough money around, you know, there's plenty of money around. But we don't get the money. We're not in the choice to decide about the money. That's a problem.
Or we cost too much. Yeah.
No, we don't cost too much. The institutions spend.
They said that this is the response you receive. Yeah. The frequency.
Right.
Ms. Pelletier, you raised your hand too. You wish to comment?
Yes,
go
thank
ahead.
you. I just want to say that I totally agree with Uwe. Totally agree. But you know, there is a solution. Instead, sending funds, European funds, in institution, we can send European funds for personal assistance, I think. And I think that we can do business with disability, but we can do business with health. We have not to do business with children. We have not to do business with old people in institution. We have not to do business with vulnerable people. We don't have to do. And I agree with you. Now there is private enterprise for personal assistant, but the government have to stay public, have to give some public personal assistance, not private. Because when I worked, it was an association. It was not real private, but not real public. It was like between the twice. And when you see what help had persons with disability or old people at home, and about from the member states, and when you see the price for personal assistance, how to say in English, the difference was very, very expensive, because they don't want it. Some member states don't want to use public funds for persons with disability. They don't want. So what do the other? They go on private because, you know, disability, old children is very lucrative for bad private enterprise. We don't have to make dividend or many money about that. I'm sorry, but that's my fight until I am care worker. That's my fight. He has to stay public help assistance, never private assistance.
No, we have in Slovenia, we have public, and even if it's all paid by our budget, or well, no, our budget, how to say, to the government, because it's the law, and they have to pay for wages of our personal assistants. It's a problem to make a shift from the care giver to independent life. This is the approach of the user, that you are a responsible person, not someone who needs just care and be at home and watch TV, or you know, you have your own life. I'm working for so many years, and I'm very happy and proud of that. But not every person have the same possibility and chance. You know, this is the, how to say, we should make some standards what can be called independent living service according to the quality of the assistance that they give to the person, to every person, even those, not even those, is more difficult to give a person who they don't have intellectual ability, that they need other support, not just support of help, but maybe some groups to share experience, to peer support, yeah, or something like this, because it's a big difference from someone who has the ability to talk about herself, like me, or someone that cannot express wishes and lifestyle.
Thank you for this discussion, which was getting interesting, raised a lot of points. If there are nobody else any more wishes to comment or ask a question, then I propose we come to the end of our webinar. Let's not drag it out too much. Just a couple of closing remarks. I think we are all in agreement here, which is a good sign. What Ms. Pellissier pointed out, I always get a bit a tummy ache when I hear that for-profit companies are offering public social services, because then, of course, you have public money fueling private profits, which drives up the costs unnecessarily. So personally, I always get a bit atomic ache also. I think it should be public or not for profit. It seems we have a lot of work to do to convince governments. I feel often we need to highlight the perspective more that personal assistance and other services make a difference in people's lives. That it's not just an anonymous mass you can stack into institutions to have them sitting around there. That it's about people and their opportunities. We need to convince, to expand the circle of beneficiaries, to have low administrative thresholds, and to see this not as an expenditure but an investment. I think I don't go too far in saying that ENIL will support the work as best we can, and we hope that the European Commission, in their guidance on independent living, will send a strong signal to member states that personal assistance and other community-based services are the way to go. We know there is a price tag, but institutions also have a pretty big price tag. They are also very expensive. So yeah, and with community-based services actually helping people to be active, it's probably considering all else the better way, the better investment. Yeah. I think we also heard a lot of arguments. The European Union is still spending a lot of money on institutions. I think if this money would be exclusively spent on personal assistance and other community-based services, we would make progress. We would be a step further. Thank you very much for attending our webinar. Yes, thank you very much. Thank you to the panelists for their contribution. Thank you to this sign language interpreters and the captioners. Yeah, we hope for further cooperation on this. I think it's very necessary that the people who are convinced about independent living work together. And yeah, wish you a pleasant afternoon and a good weekend. Goodbye.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.